checking out your new gun?
Yeah, man.
Man, that's some nice knurling around that. What do you call it? Yeah, what do you call that?
I don't know. Let me look it up. Ah, it's a tactical knob. Hey guys, welcome to Gear Tasting. I'm excited today to bring you the finished product on my precision rifle build. So this just came back from Accurate Ordnance and they did a phenomenal job putting this together. I can't begin to tell you how ecstatic I am, and I can't wait to shoot this. I haven't even shot it yet. I wanted to talk to you about it first, but it literally just came in and I've been oogling it ever since. So anyway, this is the finished product, as I said. So I wanted to go through some of the things that you guys saw in past videos, the parts that I talked about sending to Accurate Ordnance to get the gun built, as well as talk about some of the features and the special intricacies that Accurate adds to their precision rifle build. So first thing you'll see is the gray bow stock. So this is that gray bow stock that I mentioned is kind of a fiberglass line from Macmillan, so it's kind of a descendant of the Macmillan A5 stock. Then you'll see the EFR, which is that accessory rail on the front for putting on clip-on night vision units, as well as on the side for D-balls and laser aiming devices. I'm going to look up what EFR stands for. Embedded front rail. Couldn't remember that. So they did the inletting there at Accurate Ordnance because obviously that's not going to fit on its own. It had to actually be dug out and cut and put into the stock. That's not something that could just drop in. You know, there was some confusion in the past video where, you know, I mentioned it just goes around the barrel, and that wasn't accurate whatsoever. So that was added. And then, you know, in talking with them about this build, which I consulted with them quite a bit on, you know, the different things and pieces and ways to do things, because I'm learning about all this as we go too. I'd had some experiences, you know, from what I've talked about on past gear tastings, is I'm kind of new to the precision rifle game. I've only been at this about a year, so I try to pick up and soak up knowledge wherever I can. And you know, what better way than to talk to the guys that have been doing it forever at Accurate Ordnance, and as well as I was able to talk to a contact at Badger too when, you know, I was kind of piecing all this stuff together. So they've been extremely informative and helpful in kind of educating me on a lot of these things too. So back to so this is called the bar. This is the Badger bar, and this is actually a piece that we didn't talk about on a past gear tasting. So this piece right here that allows the bipod to quick disconnect from the rail system. I'll take that off so you can see that real quick. So basically what we have here is this is a QD auto lock from American Defense, and that fits onto the Badger BAR, which stands for lots of acronyms, bipod accessory rail. So that goes on the bottom here, and what I did have, you can still see the screw hole on the bottom that wasn't covered up, just so I could add that back on, and that was one of my requests too. I wanted to still be able to add those studs on there if I wanted to eventually. So they used that front stud hole to mount this bar, and then they had to drill another hole here for the front. But what this allows is I'm not stuck with one bipod now. So before, the Harris bipod just went onto a sling swivel on the front, just kind of screwed onto that. But now that sling swivel screws onto this QD auto lock, and now I can take this on and off the gun as I need to. So you can see it just slips on right here and locks back on. So also what was added too was this bipod lock. So this is a simple way to just adjust this and loosen the rail to get your cant. And then once you have this set, you know, obviously you use a level, and I've got that coming too. I bought a Vortex level that clips on or screws on to the scope tube, so I can view that, you know, with my eye as I'm on the gun. I can look at that level and make sure the gun's level before I shoot too. That's another important part of this as well. So moving on from the Badger bar, and as well as the Harris bipod, we talked about the EFR. This is the Nightforce SHV 4-14. This is their F1 scope. It's a 50mm scope, and you know, I was talking with Mark over at Accurate Ordnance too, and he said this is a phenomenal scope, and I was glad to hear that because I don't have a lot of experience with scopes. I've looked through a few of them, but I'm no scope professional, so I do know that Nightforce makes great glass, so I was really interested in working with them, especially after SHOT Show when I saw this model, because this is I've talked about this before, but this is a lower cost model from Nightforce, but it's still a first focal plane scope, which means as you adjust you dial your dope or you adjust the elevation, that moves with you. So with the first focal plane, what you're seeing in the scope, if you're calling, let's say you get a call for elevation, so you say, hey, hold 0.2 of a mil or something like that. What you're seeing in the scope is actually that measurement. With a second focal plane scope, you have to be at a specific power to have that be accurate. So you would have to be at, say, 8 power, for instance, to know that what you were seeing in there is actually true. So that 0.2 of a mil call you get for a hold on a second focal plane scope, you would have to be at that power. So hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully I'm explaining that right. But anyway, I added on some Breck scope covers. I looked around to kind of see what was out there. There's another brand. Butler Creek is also a popular scope cap company, but I went with Brecks because I really wanted the ability to put on a kill flash if I wanted to. So what's great about the Brecks flip-up scope covers is you can rotate these too. So there is a rotation both in the front and the back scope cover, and I mounted this one this way so it flips down instead of up. And I flipped this one up, but it can lay flat like that too. That's another thing I like. But basically what you do is you remove the front part of the scope cap, and there's an internal ring that this mates with. And this ring can actually be unscrewed. And then the kill flash itself can be screwed on just like that to the scope. So I wanted the ability to be able to do that, and then if I needed to, I could come in and add the scope cover as well, but I'd have to turn this to the side because of the way that it closes, so that's a consideration too. But anyhow, that's something I wanted the ability to do, and I picked that up. I will put if you're interested in the SHV scope, this 4-14, there will be a link in the description in the video notes, but I'm also going to put a link to the type of Breck scope covers I use because it was a major pain in the butt to figure out what kind I needed for this scope. And Breck's website was not very informational when it came to that, so figured I'd give you guys a hand with that if you needed it. The other thing that got added to this too is the power throw lever. So this is a Nightforce accessory that they make that gives you the ability to quickly move and change power on the scope. They recommend mounting this at the 12 o'clock position with the power centered. So this is almost on 8 power. It's actually it's more, I guess, 2/3, maybe 6 3/4, I guess, is really where this is sitting at as far as power goes, between 6 and 8. And then moving on to the action, this is a short action from Stiller. This is something that Accurate Ordnance has custom made to their specs from Stiller. So that's where the basis for this action goes. I think I was talking in the other videos about possibly going with the Remington 700 short action, but I went with the Stiller because it's what Accurate recommended, and they had the specs kind of built to them. So it's got the extractor that it's got in it is actually a kind of an M16 style extractor too. If you look at the bolt there. So, and I really like the fluted bolt too. There's obviously a purpose for it, but I think it looks pretty cool too. So. And then moving on to the bottom here, this is the Badger. I'm going to write this down. I wrote this down so I didn't forget it. Lots of things on this gun. Sorry, I lost my place. The enhanced trigger guard is what this is, and the reason I went with this, we had talked about this previously, but I like the bolt release being under here, so it's an ambidextrous bolt release, so you can release it from any side. And also it's got this, it's kind of if you're up against a bunker or something like that, or a barrel or what have you, you can push into that and rest the gun there, so it prevents it from resting on the magazine. So if the magazine was in here and you were up against a bunker or something, you wouldn't be pressing right on the magazine, you would be pressing up against this thing right here. So just a consideration there that I thought was an interesting feature that I wanted to add. So overall, the weight of this gun is 13.6 pounds, which I think is pretty good for a precision rifle. Again, we were going for a lightweight build when we put this together, and I think we really achieved that. There were some things that, you know, probably could have cut down a little weight, like if we didn't add the EFR and get that inletted, if we didn't add the Badger bar and we just went with the Harris bipod attached to it. But I think, you know, as I was looking at other bipods out there, there's the Atlas, there's another company that makes bipods out there too. I think it was made out of carbon fiber or something. So there is some other options out there, and the Badger bar gives us the ability to change to those type of things. So a lot of precision shooters like to change bipods depending on the situation they're going to be in. So this would give us the option to do that. So the rings themselves are Badger. The Stiller Action comes with this 20 MOA base. So the rail that's across the top here, the Picatinny rail, is a 20 MOA base. So that's the minute of angle it adds to the rifle. So the rings themselves, I think, are .885, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Yeah, .885 from Badger. And what I really like about Accurate too is they gave me a spec list. So everything that was put on this rifle, I've got on a little laminated sheet. I thought that was pretty cool. So this is detailed information on the custom build. So Stiller, we went over that. This is so the lug. So the blueprint is lap lugs. The trigger is a Timney thin shoe trigger. It's actually a 510 thin trigger from Timney. It's set to 2 pounds, 8.8 ounces. So that's my trigger pull. Stiller 20 MOA pin scope base, which we went over. So the barrel itself is from Rock Creek. And again, it's a 6.5 Creedmoor. I probably didn't say that in the beginning, but if you had seen the previous videos on the build, I talked about kind of why I went to the 6.5 Creedmoor versus 308. So, and then it's also got a dead air brake on the front of it too, and that's threaded for 5/8 by 24 is the threading for that. And I'm still waiting on my dead air suppressor. It's been, you know, sitting at the place where where the safe's at the gun shop. It's been there since April, so I'm waiting on my Form 4 back from the ATF. If you're listening, I would really appreciate you sending that as soon as possible. Thank you. So, waiting on that. And again, so it's pillar bedded too, so when the Action was installed, and I think I kind of showed you guys this whenever we were on the previous video, but this is kind of what happens during pillar bedding. So these things are actually inletted or bedded into the stock itself so that the weight is not right on the stock. It's on these pillars that are bedded into the stock. So EFR flesh cups, we can talk about that. That brings me to the next thing I want to talk about. So what I really liked is that Accurate was kind of talking to me about this, because the flesh cups that were added for the QDs, you can see one on this side, see one on this side, and there's also one in the back here up high, and one in the back on the right side up low. So since I'm right-handed and I'm shooting the gun this way, basically the QD or the flesh cup that was added to the stock is added down low, because I run a rear bag that's got a QD on it like this. So now I can have my rear bag attached to the stock as I'm doing that. So, you know, setting this up like so, I've now got that rear bag attached to this, so I can kind of move with the bag if I needed to. So, you know, it's not going to be perfect. I'm sure I'll wind up disconnecting it at some point. And, you know, before, when I was running my buddy Jason's gun, he actually had QDs on his stock too, so I would run this on the opposite side, so opposite of where the sling would be. So if my sling was on this side with the QDs, I would run the rear bag up here too as I moved around. So it's nice that there is one back here, and I'm looking forward to trying that out as well. So I think I pretty much went over everything. I'll talk a little bit about the mags one more time, but, you know, again, I can't recommend Accurate Ordnance enough. They've been phenomenal on this build. Just the one-on-one contact I've had with them, which they would do with all their customers on a build, they'll talk you through it. Mark over there at Accurate is just a wealth of knowledge, and I've learned a ton from him, so I wanted to just quickly thank him for all that he's done to help me kind of be educated on some of this precision rifle stuff. So I'm looking forward to kind of coming into shooting again with that new knowledge that I've learned from everybody that I've made contact with in the industry as I've been putting this build together. And again, there will be a really big write-up on ITS on this, but this is kind of the quick down and dirty on the 6.5 Creedmoor that I built with Accurate Ordnance. Okay, so if you're wondering real quick too, the Cerakote that was used on this is graphite black. I wanted to mention that as well. So, you know, the barrel itself, the blank, was, you know, chrome or silver to begin with. And, you know, I asked if they could match the kind of the colorway of the Cerakote to the kind of the scope gunmetal. So that's called graphite, if you're curious about that. And then last thing I wanted to mention was the mags. And I had talked previously on the other episodes about going with AW mags versus AICS style mags, and that's from a company called Accuracy International. And the difference between that I've talked about before, but the down and dirty of it, one's a single stack, one's a double stack. So you can get 10 rounds in a mag this size versus this size, and that's a considerable weight savings and space savings as well. But, you know, in talking with, you know, Accuracy Ordnance about this build, he kind of pushed me away from running AW mags because once it's been, I want to say, I'm going to call it the wrong thing, but anyway, using AW mags, you're stuck with those AW mags forever. So with AICS mags, that's the more common magazine pattern. So, you know, other aftermarket magazines you may come across or things you'd want to use are more than likely going to be patterned after that AICS style. So there's more versatility in AICS than there is AW, put it that way. So that's why I went away from this is AW. So why I went away from running the double stack AW configuration. And that's not to say this gun's not going to work with it, but if you make a gun work specifically for AW mags, that's all it's going to take. So put it that way. So hopefully that clears up anything that you had question-wise around magazines. This is actually a magazine called the Accurate Mag. This is a 308 mag that will fit 6.5, obviously, 6.5 Creedmoor. And I'm looking forward to giving this a shot too. All right, guys, welcome to Questions Over Coffee. Today, I'm drinking some more Spartan. It's a special blend you can't get. Just kidding. Anyway, the first question is from Nav195 on YouTube. He asks, can you go over some options for accessory pouches that match LBT's mask gray? And will you ever offer your med pouch in mask gray? We would love to offer our stuff in mask gray. Maybe that's a collab with LBT in the future. Who knows? But, so, a close match to, this is mask gray, the chest rig here. This is the 1961 from LBT. So this is our Ranger green color, which is not a super close match for mask gray, but it's the closest that we have, and it's the closest I've seen for mask gray. So most likely if you know, a company is using pretty dialed in Ranger green colorways, they're probably going to be a pretty close match for mask gray. So one thing I wanted to point out, as you can see, what more than likely happened when LBT was constructing this is that they still used, you know, some stuff that might have been Ranger green. I know that these buckles right here are foliage, so that's a foliage style or color buckle from this is probably ITW, or no, National Molding. So that's a foliage buckle from National Molding. So they're not mask gray buckles per se. This is you know, kind of a mix. So. And this may be some custom dyed loop. I know that, I mean, you can do that. You can custom make your webbing and your loop and even your material in any color you want to, hence the mask gray colorway. But, you know, when you look at, you know, the loop here from Ranger green, that's still a fairly close match. This was actually spray painted, so I actually painted this the same color as the helmet that I did in mask gray a while back. And this is actually foliage loop that I added. So I picked this up from OpsCore. This is just a set of their foliage loop in that colorway, which I think it probably would have been better to just leave the original loop on this helmet and have spray painted it mask gray. That's something you can consider too if you're wanting to match something to mask gray. But again, that's Ranger Green. You know, even the webbing that's on our Tallboy pouch. This is our Tallboy ETA Trauma Kit pouch. You can see that that's even a fairly close match to their webbing color that they use on Mass Gray. So, hopefully that answers your question. All right, next question is from Neil S. on Twitter. What is the best carrier LBV for Sub-Saharan Tropical? And I tell you, I've never been to the Sub-Saharan Tropical desert, so I can't really accurately answer that question because I haven't been there, but what I would think is a very dry, hot environment, somewhat like Texas has been lately. I would probably just rock the 1961 chest rig that I've been using, depending on where I was. You know, colorway, I don't know if that's what your question was, you know, matching a desert colorway, but I would really probably say that something like a Desert Digital or an AO or 1 pattern is a great bet in something like that. But again, that's a straight sand, desolate wasteland probably. So, you know, maybe something like just a flat color or a 1 color might be even better. So, you know, maybe something like a coyote colored rig or something like that might be a good option as well. Hey guys, thanks for watching Gear Tasting. Remember to use the pound tag Gear Tasting. What's that? On any social media network, and we will answer your questions right here on Gear Tasting. If you like what we've been doing on Gear Tasting, please consider joining as a crew leader. We've got a link below. It's our membership at ITS and allows us to give you something back in return for your membership. Thanks for watching.